just us, yeah. Just us.
Okay, we're gonna call the Personnel Health and Safety meeting to order. We're gonna take roll. Mr. Baptist, would you start?
Frank Baptist. Steve Brown.
Ann Spencer Cole.
Evelyn Reed.
Bill Donner.
Mandy Spicer.
Valines.
Jeff Ham.
Okay, we do have a quorum. I'd like to have approval of the minutes.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. As you remember, last time we had Miss Mandy handed out our employee handbook, all the revisions that have been made, and gave us a month to read over it and look at it. I hadn't received any calls or comments. Does anybody have a question on the handbook?
I do have one quick question. On my understanding of the policy is that we're talking about 3 days, isn't that right?
Are you talking about which one?
The PTO part of it.
Yes.
I'm sorry, that's the one I get hooked up on is PTO. Because, and my question, I guess, is, we're restricting that to not leaving it as in favor of what the employee wants when we may have some abuse by certain people. I don't know if that's the case or not, but why don't we deal with the people that are causing the problems rather than adjusting the whole policy to fix that?
So it got adjusted.
Because it's on like a holiday thing, I think.
Well, so it got changed in January of 2024, where used to civilian employees, nothing changed for the public safety, for the fire and police, nothing changed for them. They still have their unexcused sick. But for the civilian employees, they do not have unexcused sick. They still have excused sick, where they have to have a doctor's note, and they still have their vacation, where they can take with a department head approval. And then they get 24 hours worth of PTO and what we're treating it as is unexcused sick. The amount of sick that they have is sufficient it's the same amount of sick that the public safety employees get. In order to have a sick note, it's just 24 hours that you get to not have a sick note. And it was dealt with at a department head level. It's just hard to police when people abuse it, because if we give them the 56 hours of unexcused, they're going to use the 56 hours. And there's nothing that we as department heads can say, because they're given up to 56 hours of unexcused, plus they get all of the excused sick that they get. And as a department head, to me, it works a lot better this way as a manager, to be able to have the 24 hours of unexcused.
Mr. Donner, I have a question.
Okay.
Now, on this unexcused medical, could it not be called a 3-day PTO instead of being if it's being abused? Can it not be a person by person basis if the employee is abusing it?
Well, we give it, it's labeled as PTO, so they can take it as additional vacation days, or they can take it as, they don't have to take it at all.
Okay.
So they actually have more freedom in it as it being called PTO days, as opposed to it being called unexcused sick.
Okay.
But it's not a change. That's not a change from what we had from January of 24. It's the exact same policy that it was before. The only thing that we changed in this rendition was that they could use, it had to do with the inclement weather cause. That was the only change.
I'm guessing, and I'm to rephrase it. I'm interpreting that the challenge has been folks just not showing up before the holiday. But doesn't the policy address unexcused absences based upon coverage?
Correct. Well, you can use a vacation day before or after a holiday, but you cannot use a sick day even with fire and police. So if Chief Evans has someone use a sick day the day before a holiday or the shift before a holiday, it's been in our handbook for
Long, yeah.
very, very long time. You have to have a sick note.
Yeah.
So therefore, if we're utilizing PTO as the unexcused sick version, in order to make it more equitable with the police and the fire, we said you had to have a sick note in order to use PTO.
I hear what you're saying. I tend to agree with Alderman Hart a little bit that, you know, if we've got a handful of people that are the issue, why aren't we addressing that handful of people? Because if memory serves correct, there is language in the policy about people abusing sick time and time off based upon, you know, adequate staffing levels and things like that. So if it's a but you guys, the department heads, are the ones that have to administer this and are a lot closer to it than we are, but.
It's more along the lines of consistency between departments. I guess that's the easiest way to say it.
In their case, 3 8-hour days, the HR attorney likes to establish a pattern in determining abuse, and a lot of times, by the time they run that 24 hours out, that's barely even enough time to establish a pattern, so they abuse it, and you're prolonging the course of the year, correcting that problem.
But we're not taking, I guess, I want to make sure everybody understands, we're not taking days away from anyone. It's the same amount of hours that was in the last revision from January of 24. No one's lost any time or will accrue any less time.
You know what you gotta remember, Steve, we got the fire department involved, and a shift is 24 hours for them, whereas any other employee, it's 3 days.
Yeah, I get that completely, and you know, and I've probably taken more of a harsher stance than others when I've made statements in the past related to fire and police are their own animal. They're unique. They do their, you know, so for us to try to fit a square peg into a round hole to make the non-unique or the normal folks that aren't uniform policy fit exactly to that, I struggle with that. But again, I'm not here managing it every day. I'm taking, you know, we're leaning on you guys' advice and those things, but I'm challenged with that a bit. Let me put it that way.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just when you manage people, again, I think for me, the key thing is consistency, because you get into grievances and lawsuits and, well, I wasn't treated the same as this person over here in a different department. So you gotta have that consistency, and I'm assuming our HR personnel lawyer looked at this and,
He did.
yeah, okay.
This was on his recommendation.
Yeah, so it kind of protects us as a city, I would think, having a policy written down and as long as the enforcement is consistent. The only way you can do that if you have a policy in place.
Well, if it's the recommendation of the leadership team and Mayor Farmer's in agreement and the attorney's in agreement with this, then based on that advice, I'll make the recommendation that we move forward. I'll make the motion that we move forward.
Second it.
We got a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of adopting the new handbook, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
How many opposed? 2? Okay, measure passes. Any other business to come before the committee? Okay, we're adjourned.
Call the February 10th Finance Committee meeting to order. I'll do so by establishing a quorum, starting on my far left with Alderman Ham.
Jeff Ham, present.
Valines.
Jeff Morrow.
Mandy Spicer.
Bill Donner.
Evelyn Reed.
And Spencer Cole.
Frank Baptist.
All right, thank you everyone for being here. From my understanding, Benton Utilities, does not have a representative here tonight. They did provide in your packets, though, a copy of their financials, from December. I would say we could look over and discuss, which we can, but anyone with in-depth knowledge is not here, so we might have to table all questions until following month's meeting, if everyone is okay with that. From there, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Item number 5 is a fire training facility bid acceptance. In January, the city advertised formal bids for the construction of a new fire training facility. The bids were opened on Friday, February 7th, and Lone Star Tactical Buildings was determined to be the lowest acceptable offer at $463,045. You have a example of the building or a diagram of the building in front of you. We are paying for this with cash on hand from the Public Safety Fund. My understanding, we have $750,000-ish in that fund, so we have adequate funds to pay for this and the associated other work like pads and those kind of things that will come in other lots. But this, what we will need to do is have a resolution to approve the contract and appropriate the expenditure for the construction of this.
So move.
I have a
Second.
motion and a second.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? We have Alderman Hart had his finger up first.
I guess my question, Chief, is this everything you want?
Yes, sir. This, the low bid was actually determined with these specs and design.
Well, I guess I don't necessarily mean low bid, I'm talking the facility and what it needs in it. I mean, did we get everything
Yes.
that you believe that will be here and we can train and, I mean, could be the best facility in the state?
Yes.
Okay, one more.
It fits all of our needs for our construct and training. The interior is set up, it illustrates different scenarios for single residential fires, multiple fire floors, we got the availability for road rescue, operations, all on top of it, intercom, all those kinds of things.
Is that 2 stories or 3 stories, Chief?
No,
It's 3 stories? Okay, I couldn't tell.
Chief.
I'm sorry that picture is,
Hang on.
it looks like a computer.
Hang on 1 second, Trevor.
Okay.
Did you have something else, Chief, you wanted?
No, sir.
Okay.
Chief, where is this gonna be located at?
So that'll be down on, South Market Street, across from, how loud's it gonna be? South Market Street across from where the, animal shelter's gonna be.
Okay.
Good deal.
Chief, can you describe, from this drawing, looks mostly black with some yellow here.
Yes.
Can you describe a little bit better what the facility's gonna be
Sure.
for?
The interior portion of it, and I've got it in, email form that I can send to you, or I can, print you out an interior layout. It's just a construct of different interior door openings that facilitate different scenarios for entry into different styles. The 3 20-foot Connex trailers down here on the end are actually gonna be a stairwell. They'll have a water system inside of them to hook to simulate apartment buildings, multi-story fires and that kind of thing. But I'll be happy to get you a.
Now, I was just wanting to, for my information,
Yes.
just curiosity, if that helps.
The interior portion of it is just a metal Connex trailer container. The fire burn rooms they do have an interior shell inside of them that helps prolong the life of the unit. They're swingable doors, open doors, so you can change up the interior design of
Stage
it.
it differently.
Yes,
Okay.
so, but this particular building has 2 different burn rooms in it, one on the first floor, one on the second floor. There's different props in it, so forcible entry door props. On the back side of it, there's actually a false roof that illustrates or imitates a shingled roof, so you can practice ventilating roofs and things like that on it.
One final question, and just for informational purposes, how often would you use this on a monthly basis?
On a monthly basis, so we've got six apparatus and probably 3 different shifts, so you're looking at a total of 18 different people on a daily run. I wouldn't be able to put 3 or 4 trucks down there at one time just because of coverage of the city or in things like that, but they'll be down there, every shift will be down there at least once or twice a month.
Oh, okay. I'm just, again,
Yes.
just for information.
And it's gonna open up Saline County and all of that, or the city of Benton as much as anything, to be part of SAU Tech and have more instructors come in here. So not only will our people will be getting trained more, but we'll be able to host more, which will get more instructors here.
Gotcha. Okay.
And we'll get benefit out of it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Will you train other fire departments?
It's gonna take a little bit. You have to have so many live fire instructors. So currently, we've got, I think 5 that have already prepared and gone through in hopes of this. We're gonna have to there's gonna be liability issues and things we'll have to go over with the attorney, but I couldn't rule that out in the future. With our oversight and our trainers, yes. We would be happy to host classes for some of the volunteer and local departments and things like that. Yes.
But no cost to an outside entity coming in?
Other than burn material, which is basically used pallets and hay, that's about the only thing you can really burn in them. So no, there won't be any cost unless we have personnel. If we had to host a class on the weekends, that would be the only personnel cost. I do not. It's probably gonna be August or September before they even have the facility built to ship to us. So each one of these containers will come in on a separate semi-trailer. They'll pull them off and set them and weld them out.
That's good. Any other questions?
Your bid, this includes all peripherals, I'm thinking about training equipment, dummies, whatever.
No, this is the structure itself. Is it still on? Yeah. This is the structure itself, so the concrete pad will be separate. I'll have to get a fence to put around it, and eventually I'd like to have a classroom with a bay for an apparatus to train on. That way, our units that are frontline aren't being taken out for training. They're not out of service, more or less, for training. I'll be able to leave a spare apparatus down there to train with.
And you can stage all that in separately.
Yes.
Other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the contract and the expenditure. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Chief. In the next item on the agenda, in January, the city advertised for a contract for the digitization of records. The bids were opened on January 21st, and Preferred Office Technologies was determined to be the lowest acceptable offer, pardon me, of $129,977. This was not the lowest offer, but the best offer for the scope of work was asked for. Judge Ford is here, and to answer questions that we have, my understanding is this will be paid for out of the court automation fund, and there is over $200,000 in that account, so there's ample funds in there. Chief, you want to kind of just walk us through this? Or Chief, I'm sorry, Judge.
I'm involved a lot more.
Nah, hey, it's Monday. I apologize.
Can you turn the microphone on?
So, Court Automation Fund is a fund held by the city of Benton that how money goes into that fund is every month somebody has a time pay account open. So if somebody is assessed a fine in district court and they're not able to pay that fine up front, the state of Arkansas charges them $10 per month for every month they have a time pay account open. Out of that $10 a month, $2.50 for each month goes into the court automation fund. So that's how that is funded. In, I think, September of last year, there was $227,000 in the account. Just as some background, so in 21, we deposited $26,000. 22, there was $38,000 deposited. 23, there was $39,000 deposited. In 21, there was $11,000 in expenditures. In 22, there was 0 in expenditures. In 23, there was $38,000 in expenditures. This specifically is for the digitization of records. We have to keep some records permanently. Some records have a what am I trying to say? You have to keep a certain record a certain amount of time. This is for the digitization of records from 2005 through 2021. And if you look at the list of bids, Preferred Office is not the lowest bid. If you look at the list of the bidders, they're about in the middle. We had 2 companies that actually looked at the files, that came down and looked at the files. One was Preferred Office, the other was CoFile. And if you look at CoFile, they're at 144. We went with Preferred Office. They do Brighton District Court. They've done another district court. And honestly, I think that 129 is probably on the high mark. That's worst case scenario. They take in the condition of the files, what it's going to take to digitize them. My clerk thinks it's probably going to be closer to 70, but we'll see.
Judge, there's a pretty wide discrepancy in those bids, ranging from 26,000 to over 200,000. Is there any rhyme or reason for that?
I don't think they understood the scope of the work. Like I said, the 2 that came
on both ends, you don't think
well,
they understood the scope?
there were 2 companies that came and looked at the files.
Okay.
And they're at 129 and 144.
Okay.
So, we can tell you how many boxes we have, but, looking at the boxes, you don't know how many files are in the actual boxes. You can measure the boxes. You don't know the condition of those files until you look at them. So, I mean,
they actually reviewed content.
There were 2 companies that looked at the files.
Okay.
And they're at 129 and 144.
Okay.
Which one are you preferring?
The Preferred Office, the 129, and the reason we went with them is they've done Bryant District Court, and Bryant's had no issues.
I make a motion, we go with 129.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
Will this be all that's needed to keep the digitization?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe in 16 years we'll have to come back and do it again. The hope is that we do a little bit every year, and it won't be such a big hit because I can't do the math real quick. But if you do 130 at 16 years, it's not near the chunk. And we're probably going to be able to eat some of that just out of our own budget, just out of our own normal yearly budget.
Judge, is this something that once they catch you up, you've got staff that can kind of keep it going?
I would assume so. So this company actually will come and pick up the files and in a big old truck and take them, copy them, do whatever, and then bring them back. I would assume, what you do when you assume, when we get caught up and we have 1 box at a time, I don't know if we can mail that. I highly doubt they send a truck to pick up 1 box.
Is there any PII concerns related to them taking it off site? Do they have proper? There's nothing PII in those files?
We're not concerned about it, and Bryant has had no issues, and it's 90%. I would assume again, most of it's going to be public record.
Okay.
They're court records. Most of it's going to be public record. We don't keep Social Security numbers. We're not having them. We're not having them copy ACIC or criminal information. It's just public court records.
Alderman Blind.
So these records, with it being public, will they be on a website somewhere?
That I don't know if they're going to, because right now they're not accessible unless you come down there into the back courtroom and go through a file and go through them. I don't know if we will be able to, if they're going to give us a disk, if they're going to be part of our servers. I would be more than willing to get with Trevor Valines, the communication director for Saline County, and see if we can make that available somehow. I don't know that.
Any other questions or comments? Judge, anything else you want to add?
No, sir.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor, say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda, is, in January, the city advertised formal bids for the construction of a bulletproof glass to be installed at the Benton District Court Clerk counter. Bids were opened on the 7th, and Elrod Glass was determined to be the lowest acceptable offer of $44,307. Cash on hand, held in the court automation fund, will be used. Judge, you wanna give us a little insight on that?
We, again, where our clerks are at, if you've ever been in the district court, you go into the right, there's clerk windows. That glass is not bulletproof glass. I wanted to have bulletproof glass for my clerks right there, and we had Elrod come down and look at it and spec it out, and he did. It was over the bid requirement, so we bid it, and we received 2 bids. Him and another company, I believe they were from, I wanted to say Michigan or Oklahoma. I think it was Michigan.
It was a long way off.
Questions?
Yes, Judge, you don't currently have any bulletproof, this is gonna be new.
This is going to be new bulletproof glass in the clerk windows. The glass in the clerk windows right now is just normal glass.
Make a motion, we buy the glass.
Hang on one second if you don't mind. I have one more question. Apologize. Is there a security, was there any issue or incident?
There was no incident. It is something that we just thought we needed. There was nothing that precipitated this or caused us to think about this. It was just, hey, we have some money there in the automation fund. This is something that, has been on the back burner for a long time. Let's do it right now.
Okay. I'm sorry. Alderman Donner?
My question is, you got court automation, can't be used for automation?
For technology purposes. That's what it says.
This qualifies as a.
I say it does. I say if bulletproof glass isn't technology, I don't know what it is.
I'm just trying to, in my mind, the automation part of it. I guess you feel better about your security, you get better automation.
I would say so. The statute says, it says district court technology purposes, and if bulletproof glass isn't technology, I don't know what is.
I think it's something long overdue.
You're making a motion, Alderman Donner?
I'm
And-
making a motion.
Second.
And if I don't pay for it out of our automation fund, I just go to the county and the city and say, hey, I need some bulletproof glass. And, so I'm trying to look at it, find a creative way of paying for something that would have to be paid for otherwise.
I'm sorry, I know there's been a motion second. Can I ask a question? Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Are there other areas that need glass besides this area?
No, we don't have any other glass. The bench and everything has bulletproof glass. So no. Well, not bulletproof glass, I'm sorry, bulletproof down on the bench. Something. I hadn't tried it out, so.
Any other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank y'all. I wish I would have known that the proportionate share agreement for the district judge's salary was next, and I would not have shown up to, today. You're
It's
fine. I will tell y'all,
We do it every year.
I know you do it.
So it's fine.
That was a joke, but the state is probably going to start picking that up,
That's good.
hopefully. So,
You get paid?
yes.
All right, the next thing on the agenda is the proportionate share agreement. We do this annually to pay our share of the district court judge's base salary. Benton's share for 2025 is $35,651.60, which is the same as the 2024 rate. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Congo widening grant acceptance and budget amendment. If you guys will recall, in 2024, the Streets and Drainage Department submitted a grant application to RDOT for an 80-20 Federal Surface Transportation Block Grant for the Congo Widening Project. We have been awarded that grant, and it is for up to $400,000 for the design phase only. We'll need to, tonight, pass a resolution to approve the contract, appropriate the $400,000 in revenue and the $500,000 expenditure associated with the grant, and we'll need to adjust the 2025 budget accordingly for those things.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Alderman Blind, you have a question?
Yes, which stretch of Congo are they gonna widen, like how far down?
Shenandoah
John.
to Long Hills.
Is he questioning me?
I just want,
I'm joking with you.
in the timeline, do we have a timeline yet, like 10 years or within the next 3 to 5 years or?
We got a roundabout going out there with Shenandoah, and they hadn't even started yet, and we've been working on that for 2 years.
Yeah, come on up.
This is on. So here lately, MetroPlan, with how they've been doing their applications, they've been having a lot of projects that are sitting around. So one of the main things they want now is a schedule that shows how quick you can get to 60% plans and how quickly you can obligate that. So that being said, realistically, the idea would be if we could get this thing under contract this year and hopefully let me and my team get started on design, we'd be at 60%, hopefully in the next year, year and a half, and then we can go back and apply for construction funding. So hopefully 3-4 years, we could be looking at having construction. No, the main holdup is gonna be right away because there are a lot of properties along through there. But that would be the plan is in the next 5-ish years, because we're hoping to build the roundabout at Congo and Shenandoah this year. Once we finish all the eminent domain proceedings and all that gets wrapped up. Once we get that built, then we kind of have okay, we've built the roundabout to the north and the roundabout to the south, and the construction funding from there is how we fill in the reasoning why we can go from there.
I have a question for you, sir.
Go ahead.
In your design plan, you're gonna widen both lanes. So are you also going to have sidewalks on both the entire length?
Yes, so the plan is to put a continuous left turn lane, so then you would eliminate any queue from people waiting to turn left, and it'd have one in each direction. Originally, when we did some conceptual stuff, we tried to do 2 through lanes, but when you start getting into the amount of right-of-way acquisition that was needed for it, it really outweighs, the pros of the project. But I think originally, right now, what we're hoping to put is a sidewalk on one side and a trail on the other. If we end up having enough right-of-way, that scores higher on the rubric for construction funding. And then also with, there's numerous other trails that's being, talked about and designed and stuff. We have several at McClellan that we're working on. So the idea is if we can put a trail to Triumph, that way we have these other segments and they can all tie into each other in the future.
Alderman Hart.
So I just want to make sure I'm right on the design part of it. It's up to $400,000. Do we have any idea how much that's going to cost?
So the Metro Plan provides the 400 plus up to 100,000 match for total of 500. Our fee isn't going to exceed that. We've already looked at what we anticipate for construction costs and what we would that being said, if we are chosen, at that y'all still have free will to pick whatever designer you want. But whenever we filled out the application and looked at the cost estimate, the amount of money that we requested on behalf of the city was acceptable for what McClellan could do the work for.
And then my last question on the $500,000 worth of expenditures associated with the project. What are examples of those expenses?
So I'm not sure as to how that would verbiage.
Yeah, so the way that is there's 500,000 is what it would cost for the design. 400,000 is what we would get reimbursed. So it's an 80-20 split.
Right. So what would end up happening is I would write, whenever it's all said and done, I write a work order. It may not be 500,000. It may be 470. And what happens is, as the project goes through, the city would pay for it and then request whatever we end up using. They request, because it's a cost plus fixed fee through Metro Plan. So it's not a lump sum. It's not, I'm charging $470,000, but it only takes me 200,000. It's an hourly. So through MetroPlan, I can only charge what I'm billing. So that being said, if my company only uses 300,000, the city just submits, hey, we only paid them 300,000. Can we get the 80% of this back? So that's why it's a reimbursement instead of a just, here's X amount, because we may not use the amount that was actually granted.
Alderman Lane.
You mentioned having a sidewalk and then a trail on the other side. Is it gonna be kinda similar to Alcoa, where they've got a
Yes,
nice
that is the goal.
6-foot trail, or what is the length on that?
So we would, for
Width.
the minimum, what they prefer minimum for a trail is 10 foot now. Or the preferred is 12, the minimum is 10 is what we're pushing right now. It really depends also how far you can get it away from traffic as well. There's a kind of a sliding scale of buffer versus safety. But ideally, we would at least like to get 10 foot in there, and then that way you can have two-way bike traffic. You have 5 foot in each direction, so you don't have to worry about people getting too close to each other.
Any additional questions or comments? Not entertain a motion.
Yeah, that's so approved, sorry.
So, was there, I'm sorry, did I miss a motion?
We already had one.
Alderman Okay,
Alderman Donner made a motion.
all right, fantastic. All right, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next thing on the agenda is just some information. I think at last month's meeting, we discussed putting some money that we had set aside out for bid for CDs. Ms. Spicer, you have an update on that?
Yes, so in your packet, you will see a rubric, and it looks very similar to what we've passed out in the past. And so we went out to several area banks. I believe I sent it out to 16, and these are the ones that I got responses back. As you'll notice, it's completely blind, so you don't know who Bank A is, or Bank D, or Bank E. So you're just voting on what the rate is. So right now we have 3 $1 million and 4 $500,000 set aside into a different CDs for different purposes. So our recommendation, of course, is to go with Bank B for the 6 month as well as the 12 months.
Do you have an idea of how you're gonna split that out?
Yes, we
6
would.
months versus 12 months?
Yes, we would like a two 6 months at 1 million and 1, 2, the rest of them at the 12 months.
12 months,
Yes.
and we need the 1 million sooner, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
those are street projects that Mr. Ritchie has working on that we'll need at the end of the year.
Sounds good.
Total of 5 million,
Yes,
so the other 3 million will be at 12 months.
correct.
Motion to approve Bank B is the selected bank for the CDs.
All right, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Last thing on the agenda tonight is some change orders for City Hall. There were 3 recent change orders for the completion of the City Hall. This is for informational purposes only. Ms. Spicer, you have some info on those things?
Yes, if you'll notice, again, this does not need legislation because of the money threshold. However, we wanted to bring it to you guys just for informational purposes. So the first one that you'll see is for, you'll notice at the top says additional change request. First one's wood-based walls, addition to the curtain walls, $1,250. All of those things that's listed, and some of those included some skylight trim, some roofing patches, fire suppression in the kitchen. All of that totals $17,621. That will be used against our contingency that we have on hand. This project was approved at $2.2 million and it had an amount of contingency that they've been slowly cutting away at. But we wanted to bring this to your guys' attention. And so after we apply the contingency, we'll be left with just shy of $7,000 left in contingency. So if you'll go to the next page, you will see the change request, and it has to do with installing hot water heaters in certain areas within the new City Hall. That should cost us around just shy of $16,000, take off of the contingency, and so that will leave us right at $10,000 once you get the bond and overhead. Where this money is coming from, if you'll remember last year, you guys appropriated a budget amendment that would take care of the parking lot, AV cameras, and a few other things. There's been cost savings, especially in the area of the parking lot. And so we will be able to still use the same money that's already been appropriated. It was not in the original contract, it was out of the contract. But we'd still be able to use this money, so we're not asking for additional fees. And then on the last page, you will see the last request, and that has to do with elevator compliance issues. And it's gonna come just shy of $20,000 to be able to get it up to code. And again, it will still use the same monies that has to do with the savings from the parking lot.
This straight, so you have to have HVAC in an elevator shaft now?
Yes. So we found out a couple of weeks ago that there was certain things, fire suppression, HVAC, there were several things that needed to be added to the existing elevator that was working whenever we took it over, in order to meet current code compliance.
All right, Mandy, to summarize, there's no net new dollars to be spent. All of these will be paid for either from the contingency fund or from savings from what was passed last year for the parking lot and those other miscellaneous items. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Alderman Blythe?
How many was in that contingency fund? Just out of curiosity.
I'd have to go back and look at it, but I think it started out somewhere around 90,000, I'm thinking.
Contingency's usually a percentage.
But I think it was less. It wasn't, this contract wasn't set up that way, where it was a percentage. But yes, most of the time it's a percentage. I'd have to go back and look and see on our first payout.
Alderman Hart?
Is there a reasoning that we didn't catch the elevator and the expenses on the first walkthroughs or anything? Or is there a reason why that's, I mean, I would think that would probably not a new understanding, or was it just not looked at?
No, that's a great question. No, there was always a portion that was put into the contract for the elevator expenditures. However, when the elevator company came out to inspect it in December, they flagged, there was a list of 15 different things. And they were like, all of these things which were completely out of scope, we thought some things would be grandfathered in, that were not. And so they flagged, you have to have the HVAC that's specific for the elevator. You have to have a fire suppression system specific for the elevator. You have to have an alarm system specific for the elevator. So there were just things that between the architect and between the contractor, it just was not something that was put in there. So these are above and beyond expenditures.
We've had a delay in opening this and using as a new city hall. Will this change orders will create a more of a delay? And I'm speaking primarily to the elevator and the time it will take. So can it open without the elevator being completed, for example, and use the others and go in, or what's the story there?
Great question. My understanding from talking to the construction manager today is that they should have, once the mayor signs these change orders, they should be able to complete the work on the elevators this week so that we could still move in next week.
Any other questions, comments? Not entertain a motion to approve?
It's just
I'm
information
sorry,
only.
information only. My apologies. You are correct. All right, anything else to be brought to this committee this evening?
Finances.
Financials, since it's the finance committee meeting, that's probably a good idea. Ms. Spicer.
Okay. If you guys will look at your book, and again, let's, the finance staff is great to be able to get you guys January finances in February. I don't think we've ever done that before, but I'm very proud of my staff. If you will look in your, first sleeve, you'll see our sales tax projections for January. It did come in at roughly 6% decrease over last year's increase. So that's roughly $160,000 short of last year's. And again, this first sheet is the full 2.5%, so that's when you add up general fund, parks, streets, and public safety altogether. It's just something we're watching. We're really hoping that February's sales tax collections that will come in at the end of February, that is from December's Christmas sales. So that is normally one of our highest. If you'll look at that, it's one of our highest months. So we have all the hopes that that'll be a really good sales tax collection. If you will turn over to look into the general fund tab, you will see that for, and it happens every year, that our expenditures, January is a very heavy expenditure month because there are some dues and subscriptions like Metro Plan or Central Arkansas Community Development. Those annual dues are due in January. Municipal League, Legal Defense, that was $129,000 this year. Workers' comp, all those things hit just in January. They're not recurring expenditures, but they are due by the end of January. Also, what happened in January was 3 payrolls. One payroll for just the general fund alone is $661,000. Magically, what we're in the hole for the month of January is $655,000. So if it was just a normal 2 payroll month, we would have been in the black a little bit, even with the heavy expenditure load. You might ask, what is a full hit of a payroll? The last full payroll that we had was $829,000. That's parks, streets, stormwater, animal, general fund, whole kit and caboodle. So one payroll is a lot of money. Other than the ones that I had just talked about, which was legal defense, workers' comp, there was nothing large that was purchased or large expenditure made. All of the department heads are watching their dollars very, very diligently, waiting to see how sales tax comes in February. If you have any questions on any of the budgets or finances, just please let me know. And I do not mind sitting down with anybody to go over those.
Anyone have any questions tonight? All right, thank you, Ms. Spicer. Anything else to be brought before this committee this evening? If not, I will call it adjourned.
Next. Do what? Oh, okay, go ahead.
Your committee first?
No, go ahead.
Oh, we're calling the commission's, committee meeting to order, and we're gonna go with our, right with Mr. Matthews.
Steve Brown.
And Spencer Cole.
Evelyn Reed.
Bill Donner.
Toby Hershotter.
Jeff Morrow.
Lines.
Okay, we have a quorum. Next, Chair would like to make a motion for approval of our minutes of our January 2025.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on our agenda is our information from the PDC. Member Hart.
Yes, first on the agenda, is ordinance, regarding a waiver of competitive bidding for a new base station at the Silicon Heights Water Tower. And the reason for that is again, it's the sole source for that. It's the only provider for it, and so we need to be able to do that in order to, they're the only ones that can do that, and it'll actually go back into what we already have and be useful from that perspective. So that's why that is, and that's why we're waiving competitive bidding, because there really is none. Any questions on that?
Any questions from council?
All right. Next on the agenda is again another ordinance regarding electrical rates for customers. I don't know if y'all remember them presenting the rates and talking to us about that and going to a what is it they call it, a on power cost adjustment on that. And really it means is that if they buy it for a certain cost, then they're gonna bill the people or the company or the organization that where the rates are at what those costs are. And they went back and even looked at some of them, and there were some months in the previous year where the residents would have received actually money back. Again, you're not talking a lot because of the multiplier and how it works and it's set up, but it's so that they can come out neutral on each of those on that. And so you go through each of the different handouts. It goes all the way down from large, general to residential. And so you can see the different rates on that based on a power cost adjustment. And so they have those options in there displayed, and it was approved at the last PUC meeting.
Any questions from the council?
Judd, didn't he say that the large power service was the one that's gonna have the biggest change? Is that right? Or am I making that up?
I don't remember him saying it. That was the largest one, or which one was the largest change? I don't remember that.
You mean which category, light industry, or?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, there was, in my mind, as I recall, I think it was in the industry.
It was heavy industry. Wasn't it heavy industry?
I don't.
And there were like three, I think he said, the hospital, Cruise Tech,
Right.
and Walmart. Yeah.
But I don't remember them saying that was the largest affected. I thought that one wasn't the largest affected, but it may have been the industrial large power, which is the step below that. So
Yeah, that's right.
I don't remember them saying the three largest ones were actually getting the largest impact on that. Of course, they're gonna have that because they have the largest usage.
Right.
But I don't.
But they were
remember-
also getting a rate adjustment, if memory serves correct.
That's what my understanding on that as well. But we can get clarification for that for the next meeting and have that if you want.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
No, I have nothing else.
Okay, thank you, sir. For the record, Mr. Alderman Helm has joined us. Next on our agenda is information from the A&P Committee.
Actually, our meeting is Wednesday of this week, so not a lot of new to report tonight. However, I will tell you that a recommendation was brought forth through A&P in December to study the creation of a position that would be partially paid for by A&P, partially paid for by the chamber, and partially paid for by the event center to share a resource that would be instrumental in helping to, from the A&P perspective, gather data and supply it related to the construction of the website and the ongoing viability of the website. So that is going to be brought forward for consideration at the meeting this week. So just informational purposes.
Thank you, sir. Next is from the P&C Committee. It's an ordinance providing conditional use for a duplex located at multiple 12 parcels along South Main Street and for other purposes. This is a conditional use that is for 12 parcels along South Main Street. We have any questions from the council? Okay. Next on our agenda is an ordinance rezoning 219 Kenwood Road in the city of Benton, Saline County, Arkansas, from R2 Single Family District Detached Housing to C1 Neighborhood Commercial and for other purposes. Have any questions from the council? Okay. Next on our agenda is an ordinance rezoning 1205 and 1207 Highway 35 in the city of Benton, Saline County, Arkansas, from an agricultural to an R5 multifamily district and for other purposes. Yes, sir.
Did have one thing I noticed on the ordinance, it said Highway 34.
No, 35. Did I say 34?
Well, it's 34 on the ordinance. I think it's supposed to be 35.
Okay, that'll be, okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir, thank you. Okay, any other questions or okay. Next on the agenda is an ordinance accepting the annexation of certain territory to the city of Benton, Arkansas, approving the schedule of services to be extended to a said area, assigning to award and for other purposes.
I have a question on that. Where is that area that's big, on this ordinance?
It's on Highway
Where's that lo-
5,
Highway five?
some of the Landers property.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Any other questions from the council?
Are any of these controversial, or did this get a, just unanimously pass at the PMZ, or?
It did. It did pass. Yeah, that did pass.
Passed without opposition.
Any other questions from the council? Okay, well, I'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.